Yo, what's going on, guys? I want to thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Anthony Ricciardi, and this is The Richual. So today I want to analyze a piece of art that I created over 6 years ago that I truly believe changed the entire trajectory of my career and potentially my entire life. I know that's a bold statement to say that something that I did over 6 years ago had the chance, and it's a singular piece, had the making to change my entire life. So I want to dive right into it. I was coming home from work one day. I was working in finance at the time. And although I love my job, I love the people that I worked with, I love the company that I was at, I was still looking for that outlet. And every single night and weekend I would paint. While on the way home from work one day, I said, what did I want to be when I grew up? And I couldn't, I tried to analyze exactly what I wanted to be, but I didn't have a firm answer. I wanted to play baseball, so ultimately I was very blessed and fortunate to go away to the U.S., play Division I baseball at Alabama State, and it was incredible. And after that, my career stopped. I got into finance, which ultimately, growing up, that was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to work in a structured, business environment. I wanted to make a difference in business and structure of finance and real estate, specifically where I worked in, was very interesting to me. So ultimately, I did achieve what I wanted to become. But what did I really want to become? Because I could have told myself I wanted to become an artist, but I never really believed that. I never thought that becoming an artist was a viable career. Growing up, we hear there's a starving artist, or it's not that great, or you have so many different chances to do different things. Art just didn't seem realistic. So I wanted to even take it one step further, and I wanted to think about actually being a child. Like when I was like a legitimate child, and I thought back in the mindset of kids, and when you ask a child, what do you want to be when you get older? They're not going to say, I want to work in finance, I want to sit in a 9-to-5 in a cubicle, or I want to do something that's very structured and calculated that'll give me security to make sure that when I retire, I'm set. That's not going to come out of their mouths. What they're going to say is they're going to say they want to do something larger than life. When you're speaking to a young child, they're going to say, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter, an athlete, a movie star, something that seems unattainable. And although knowing now what we know, all these things are attainable, but to a child, these larger than life, ideals and ideas are incredible. And while I was thinking that, I thought about the figure of an astronaut. It was something that I used to tell myself, oh, maybe if, shoot for the stars, shoot for the moon, I can become an astronaut. Never in my life did I want to become an astronaut. It was never an interest. But the concept of dreaming about, thinking about, wanting to be something so incredibly amazing was very, very interesting to me. So as I'm on the way home that night, I said, you know what? That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to become an astronaut. I didn't. But I thought that if I translated that through a painting, I was painting every night at the time. If I translated that into a painting, maybe I'll be able to see it and know what it was like to be a child and think larger than life. So when I went home that night, I grabbed a canvas. At the time, I didn't have galleries. I wasn't selling artwork. I didn't have shows around the world. I wasn't doing much. I was painting for just personal passion, and I was doing it for myself. So I went to the greenhouse studio that I worked in. I painted this astronaut. I can't remember. I think I went on Google and researched astronaut photos and looked at a photo of an astronaut. I was like, I like this astronaut. I'm going to make it dark and grungy and have this astronaut. So this was the painting that I painted. This astronaut right here. I took this painting, I put it in the corner of my greenhouse. I never really thought about it. Again, you have to understand that I didn't have a system to sell this, or I didn't have any goals of that at the time. I didn't even think that I was going to become an artist. This was still 3 years before I left my finance career. This was over 6 years ago I painted this painting. I painted it, and every single night after that, I would come in and say, what did it mean to me when when there was nothing stopping me? What did I think about when nothing was unattainable? And that singular thought, like what could I do if everything was possible, I truly believe that singular painting that sat in the corner of my studio for the next 3 years ultimately shaped the remainder of my career. The funny thing about this painting was, after I had it in my greenhouse for about 3 years, and it ultimately got ruined through a crack in the greenhouse window. The window crack, we had snow come in during the winter. It ruined the painting, that it ultimately ruined the canvas. And it was very funny because this is around the time, I guess it's, looking back now is very, symbolic to me transitioning into becoming an artist. So like when that painting was ruined, it's very surreal to look back on. But I looked at that painting every single night, and not understanding what it was doing to my mental state, it was telling myself, think like a child. Think like a child in the sense of dream larger than life. Think unattainable things, and ultimately you can achieve those things. So that's what I did every single day. And now when I look back at that painting, when I look at this painting, I say, that's the reason I'm here today. Like, that's the reason I ultimately became an artist, was to achieve what I told myself in this painting. So through this painting, in the background of it, I carved different poems. And at the time, I was writing a lot of poetry in my artwork. I was heavily inspired by my Uncle Fab, who was a poet. And he was a poet and an artist and an incredible inspiration to me. And unfortunately, around that time when I started really painting full time at my nights and weekends, he had passed away a few years before that. So I had all of his old poetry books, and I was heavily inspired by everything that he wrote. So I was writing poetry in the back of this painting, and it was telling myself, and a lot of it was done through scribble, a lot of it was done through script. It was telling myself, just do what you love and things will work out. I wasn't painting hearts at the time. That concept came as a step after from this. So the first step was understanding that if I get into the mentality, of a limitless child, of a child with incredible imagination, what could I achieve? The next step is what began to lead me down the path I am today, which was, now I'm thinking larger than life, but now I ultimately have to follow my heart and do what I want to do to ultimately achieve that goal that I'm setting out for. So that's what I did. And that's where the hearts came into play. You can see my greenhouse here. This is a greenhouse. This is a picture taken before I really became in a complete mess and totally painted in there. But I started very small, very sporadically, painting hearts around the greenhouse. And the goal with that was, again, at the time I was painting no hearts in any of my artwork. And at the time, I wanted to paint hearts around the greenhouse to tell myself, follow your heart. I would write it everywhere. Follow your heart, follow your heart. I never painted it into a canvas. I never did anything like that. I would just put it around the greenhouse. So when I walked in, I would see that astronaut. I would know to think larger than life. And then I would see that heart. And I know that while I'm thinking larger than life, also follow my heart. And again, at the time, you gotta understand that I'm coming home from work. I have family, I have friends. This wasn't something that still seemed attainable. At the time, I had just had my first art show, and even though it went well and it was, a quote unquote success, it didn't seem like I can just quit my finance job, my very structured, well-paying finance job, to go do art, to go chase this dream, to shoot to be an astronaut. It didn't seem realistic. But I believe that the positive reinforcement, that seeing it every single day, really, really changed the trajectory of my life. And then painting the astronaut, and then starting to say, follow your heart, follow your heart, follow your heart. And everywhere I would look, I would tell myself to follow my heart. My heart was telling me art without even noticing it. I didn't even realize that I continued to tell myself, art is what you want to do. Like, art is what you love. I was still studying for different finance tests. I was still trying to advance my career in finance, when I was like, but art is what I love. And if art is what I love, and I spend all the amount of time that I spend on everything else just in art, what could I achieve? So what I want to say is, don't underestimate those signals in your life. I painted that astronaut just off the top of my head one night, and I started writing Follow Your Heart just as a thing to tell myself. But don't underestimate those cues through your own life. Don't underestimate the ability of your own mind and your own heart. You see, we as individuals, as creative, as unique humans, can achieve absolutely anything. There's literally nothing that can stop us. There actually is astronauts in the world. There actually are artists in the world. There actually are very successful finance people in the world. Literally anything anyone wants to do, you can go do. So what I wanted to say today was, when I say think like a child, I want to say think like there's no limit on anything you can do. When they asked you, what do you want to be when you grew older? You didn't say, I want to sit in the cubicle. You said, I want to do the most incredible thing. I want to be a ballerina. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a movie star. So go be that ballerina, go be that astronaut, and go be that movie star. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next week.